So, I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Shriya Bansal and I'm currently working as a software engineer at Microsoft, and I'm also an educator at Relevel. So in this video, we are going to continue our discussion and talk about SQL clauses. So we already started with this discussion in the last class where we were talking about DQL queries, okay, which is data query languages. And in that we talked about the select statement. So if you've not watched that video already, I would recommend to go ahead and watch that video so you can actually understand how does the overall idea work for a select statement. And then continuing on that discussion, we also talked about two of the SQL clauses, where one was where clause, wherein you put where in the statement and then you put basically a clause or a condition after that, wherein only the rows of a table which are satisfying that condition are basically returned in the final output. Then we talked about like. So like is actually used with where itself, wherein in like you basically use a wildcard pattern. Okay, in wildcard pattern you either use an underscore or you use an exclamation mark, and both have different meanings. Underscore basically means a single character, and I would say percentage sign. Okay, a percentage sign is used, where a percentage sign can either mean, I would say, like 0 character or no character or multiple characters as well. And based on that expression, based on that wildcard pattern, only those particular rows or a particular column which satisfies that wildcard pattern is returned in the final output. So all this has already been discussed, so I would recommend, if you've not watched the video, please go ahead and take a look once, and then I would recommend to come watch this video, because this video is nothing but in continuation to the previous video. Okay, so in this video what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the order by clause. Okay, and we will see how does exactly the order by clause basically works. One suggestion that I always give and will give here as well, that when you're trying to learn the clauses, try to understand the name of the clause, because the name of the clause will actually tell you a lot and approximately everything that is going to happen using that clause or what functionality it provides. Okay, so remember, order by clause is used first of all with the select statement. Okay, so whenever you're trying to put a query, right, whenever you are using DQL statements, there you use the select statement, and wherein you basically use this for arranging the retrieved data. Okay, wherein you want to arrange the retrieved data in a sorted order. Okay, so you are going to do what you are doing in the select statement. It's just that when you need the result to be ordered in a certain ordering, right, that is where you use the order by clause. Okay, by default, like if by default order by gives answer in ascending order until and unless mentioned otherwise. Okay, if you want to put it in descending order, let's say if you want the output to be in descending order, then you have to put this particular part over here. You have to use this keyword. Okay, that is how you get it. Now let's quickly take a look at an example of how we can do this. Let's say I have the teachers table again. If you remember over here, we had this teachers table, right, where in the teachers table we have the ID, we have the name, and then we have the age of the teachers. Now let's say I want to arrange all the data in this table and I need to order it by age, okay, over here. So if I will do here select star from teachers table, okay, because where you want it from, and then you mention order, you mention order by, so you want to order the rows on the basis of age. So here you mention the column name. Okay. Here you mention the table name. Okay. And here you mention the columns you require in the output. Okay. So here see, I am just doing order by and I am doing age, and I am not really defining any ordering that I actually require. So in this case, the output will come by default in ascending order. So let's start our server first, and I'm gonna get in. Now what will happen is, let's say I am doing select star from teacher order by age. Okay, so we need to I was thinking, I think the database was school. Okay, and see, everything is now coming in ascending order of age, right? And that is what we talked about as well, that if you need the output in ascending order, right, by default, the moment you use order by, the output is in ascending order. I did not even mention whether I want the output in ascending order or descending order. But if you do not put anything, by default, it basically picks up ascending order. Okay. Now, if you basically want to put it in descending order, you just have to add the descending order, this in the end. Okay, and that will give you the output in descending order. Let's say I do this. Now see, everything is presented in the descending order. That is what simply order by basically does. Just to quickly reiterate, if you want your output to be in a certain order, right, you want it to be sorted, right, in a certain order based on the particular column that you pick up, right, you can basically use the order by clause. Okay, and that's what all order by clause basically does, right? You can mention the ascending order, you can mention the descending order, and based on that it will give you the required output. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the next one, which is group by clause. Okay, now here we'll talk about the group by clause. Okay, so now what happens in the group by clause is, it is basically used, again remember, by the very word itself that we are basically using to learn this. So it is basically used to group the results of a select query. Okay, it is basically used to group the results of a select query based on one or more columns. So you can do the grouping of the results of a select query based on one column or based on another column. Okay, so how does that basically work? So now what we are going to do over here is, we're going to take a table, the same teachers table, okay, where we have the ID, we have the name, we have age, and we have also added another column, salary, okay, which basically defines the salary of each and every teacher. Okay, and this is where we have the data that looks like now. Okay, so let's say here if I just do select, okay, let's say salary from teachers. Okay, so what it will do is, it will basically give me all the possible salaries over here. But now let's say I want to do the grouping of the, I would say, the teachers based on their salary. So there are only two types of salaries over here, right? 10,000 and 30,000. So if I do select star from teachers, right, and then I do group by salary. Okay, so what happens is, all the groups will be formed based on the salaries. Okay, so here what you had was, there was 4 teachers, 10,000, 10,000, 30,000, 30,000. है ना? This was what we had. Now what we simply did over here was we want to do grouping. So when you have to do grouping, you will have to make buckets first, unique buckets. So there is only two buckets, a 10,000 bucket teacher or a 30,000 bucket teacher, right? And in that what you will have is, here you had the teacher Aman, Ajay, Rahul, Vijay. So we have Aman, Ajay, Rahul, Vijay. So what happened was, based on that, Aman and Rahul came in this bucket and Ajay and Vijay will go in the other bucket, right? So what happens is, in the output, when you will do this, you will just have the first people of the bucket. So I think that is why you have Aman and Ajay. So when you do group by, and when you put the attribute over here salary, right, you try to group the employees based on the salary. So it's like bucketing of employees. Okay, and remember, here you can also put like a clause as well, where let's say if you want to do group by, so you can also use group by with where clause. Okay, where let's say age should be greater than 30, let's say. Okay, and then we have to do grouping. So what happened based on that over here is that we are basically looking for those employees in the bucket which have a age greater than 30. So based on that, like here you can put like a where clause as well for this. So only in the buckets who the employees who have an age greater than 30 are returned in the output. Okay, in the bucket over here for 30,000, Ajay was the employee who was shown in the output and he was already having an age greater than 45. So that's why you did get him the same person. Okay, now in this bucket, earlier you were having Aman and Ajay in the output. Okay, Aman basically had the age 30 and Ajay basically had the age 45, and these two were representing, or the first, I would say, rows of the corresponding buckets. But when I put a where clause and I say that the age should also be greater than 30, now what happened was Ajay is still eligible to be a part of this, right? Because the grouping is done, he is still the first person in the group and his age is also satisfying the where clause. But when we talk about Aman, Aman is definitely the first person in this group by bucket, right? But his age is not greater than 30. That's why we have put next person in the bucket, who is Rahul, and that is why Rahul is the second one who came in the output. And that is how you basically use the group by clause. Okay, remember, in group by clause you can also add the where condition over here. Okay, so basically you want to do grouping, but you want like a more stricter answer over here for your output. Okay, so that is what the group by clause basically is. Just to repeat, it is used to just group the results, okay, of the select query that you got based on a certain column. Okay, so here our column was salary, and based on that we have done the grouping. Okay, so that's what our next clause is. Now we'll talk about the next one, which is having clause. Now what happens in the having clause is, that is again it used in SQL queries itself, but it tries to give more, or it is used to give more precise condition. Okay, it is used to give more precise condition for a statement. Okay, now here you usually use it with group by over here. Okay, for example, you use where with the select queries. It's more like having is used with the group by query over here. Okay, now let's take an example here as well. Okay, so here what happened is, this is our select table. So in here what we will see is that, let's say I do select star from teacher, okay, group by salary, okay, having in each group the sum of age, let's say greater than 40. Okay, so here what it basically means is that you again have the same grouping, right? In the same grouping you have Aman and Rahul with the age 30 and 51, and in the second group you have Ajay and then you have Vijay. And what are their corresponding ages? Ajay is 45, Vijay is 32. So I am saying in the final output, if you would have just the group by clause, you will have Aman, right? And you will have Ajay, which are the first values. But now I have also added a having clause where I want to make sure I only get those values in the output bucket who has the sum of all the ages in the bucket greater than 40. So here 30 plus 51 and 45 plus 32. Both in the bucket have greater than 40 as well. That is why both of the first candidates of the bucket came in the output. Okay. But let's say here this was what? 81 and this is what? 77. Let's say I put the constraint of being greater than 80. Having the sum of ages greater than 80. Now what you will see here, this bucket do not satisfy that condition because the sum of the ages in this bucket is 77 and we want to make sure that the sum of the ages in like the grouping is greater than 80. So that is why only the first candidate of this came in the output. Okay, so again the group by part is same. You are still doing the grouping is still happening. But the difference over here is that you've put an additional specific constraint over here for the having clause. Okay, and that's what the having clause is. Next what we have is the distinct clause. So now let's start our discussion for the distinct keywords. So what happens is in the distinct keyword, it is also used with the select query only, right? And it is basically used to retrieve unique values from the table. It is more or less like you just want to see what are the unique values in a table. Basically, what all containers or unique containers will basically exist if you will do the grouping. Okay. So how does this basically work is, let's say I do select, okay, and I just want to do salary. So I will say select distinct salary from the teachers table. That means the only two type of salaries that exist in the teachers table is 10,000 and 30,000. And that is why only two rows basically came in the output. Okay, that is what the distinct query means, that you are only looking for distinct and unique words. Okay, so that is pretty easy. The last one that we have is and or, like and or. Okay, so basically and or kind of specific keywords that we can add. And is basically the typical way we use and. That means this should also be true and this condition should also be true in order for a row to be in the final output. But when we talk about or, either this can be true, this can be false, this can be true, this can be false, right? Or both can be true. Okay, so that is how this basically works. Very simple. Let's just take quickly an example to see how this works. Okay, for example, again let's take a look at the table only. Select star from teachers table where let's say age is greater than 40 and salary is greater than 20,000. So here only the results which satisfy both the conditions are presented in the final output. In the final output, all the employees have an age greater than 40 and their salary is greater than 2,000. Here if I put 20,000, then only you will get employees which have satisfied. So here see, in the original table, in the first row, the salary is not greater than 20,000. So it doesn't go in the output. Here the salary is greater than 20,000 and the age is also greater than 40. So it is in the output. In the third, the age is greater than 40 but the salary is less. And in the fourth one, the age is less. Okay. So that is why only one row in the output. But if I put OR over here, that means either of these conditions should be satisfied. So for the first one, neither the age was greater than 40, neither the salary was greater than 20,000. Hence, it did not come in the output. Here, age was greater, so it came in the output. Here, age was greater, so it came in the output. Here, age was not greater, but salary was greater. So it came in the output. And that is how you exactly use the and the OR operator. Okay, you can mix and match a lot of scenarios, right? This is pretty much like an introduction only, but I would recommend everyone to try out more and more examples, okay, so that you understand more on how the overall idea works. Okay, but yes, this is how you should actually study, by taking examples again and again, and by trying to solve all that examples so that you actually understand how the overall idea works. And trust me, if you are able to use all of these clauses very well, you can actually perform a lot of complex queries very, very easily. Okay. So just to quickly reiterate, where is just a condition that you mention. Like is used with where you just mention a wildcard pattern for which you want to search in a particular column. Then you have order by, where you want the output to be ordered, let's say in ascending order or descending order based on a certain column. Then you use group by, wherein you want to have all the rows, but you want to group them into certain buckets. You want to do the grouping of the rows, right? And in the output, you just get the first row for every group. Having is used with group by. Similarly, how where is used with select. Okay, so having also is basically mentioning a condition, and only those groups though that will satisfy that condition will have, be in the final output. Distinct is you just want to see kind of like what all groups you have, what all unique values you have in a certain column. And on or is pretty much like, a typical truth gate kind of a thing, where in the output, if I mention and, I want to make sure that only the rows which satisfied both the parts of the and are in the output, whereas for or, either one of the conditions satisfy the output or the condition, and they can be a part of the output. Okay, so with this, we've actually completed all the SQL clauses as well. Now the responsibility is on you. How exactly you can use these SQL clauses in order to, perform complex queries, right? What you can do is you can try to solve some questions on the internet where you can take up a complex use case, right? And see, can you really write a query for it or not? Or for beginner purposes, what you can also do is just make a database on your own, right? Don't spend that much time and that much effort also. Just make a database on your own, right? Fill up a few entries, fill up some common entries, fill up a lot different entries, maybe add 2-3 more columns as well. ID, name, age, salary, what class they teach, right? Multiple teachers can be teaching the same class. So kind of like, play with it a little bit, add a few more attributes, add a few more data in it, and see what output you get when you run the queries. And then try to understand, right, what output should have actually come and what output is coming right now. Okay. So this will actually help you to become a little bit more confident, because trust me, as we will move forward and talk about a little bit about aggregation functions, scalar functions, joins, the complex will only get more tricky and not easier. So it's equally important that we ensure at each and every step that our understanding is absolutely clear for this topic. Okay, and then we can move ahead and solve some more. All right. Okay then, thank you so much for taking a look at this video, and I will definitely meet you in the next one.